All right, so let's kick this off. Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all those who've tuned in to today's session. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And for those who are here for the very first time, just a brief intro on CISA. We are a forensics-driven cybersecurity solutions company. We've been around for about 19 plus years, and our focus is primarily on the digital payments industry. So today's session is going to focus on operationalizing SEBI's cybersecurity and cyber resilience guidelines. Now, we've conceptualized this webinar because we've seen a real need for practical clarity on what these guidelines are all about. And as many of you know, the financial sector is under mounting pressure from increasingly sophisticated cyber threats that don't just target data, but they can also disrupt operations and undermine consumer trust. So to help address this, SEBI has rolled out the Cybersecurity and Cyber Resilience Framework, in short, the CSCRF, with the goal of strengthening defenses across all SEBI-regulated industries. So over the next hour, we will talk about why these guidelines are so important right now. We'll walk you through some of the key requirements, highlight a few common challenges that you may face while implementing them, and share practical best practices that will help you get these right. And of course, drawing on CISA's expertise, we'll also look at how organizations can not just achieve, but sustain CSCRF compliance over a period of time. So before we dive in, just a quick housekeeping note. This webinar will be a 60-minute webinar, and we have reserved about 10 minutes at the end for question and answer. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat window, and as we go along, we'll make sure to address them. On that note, I'm excited to introduce our speaker for today, Neetin, Senior Director for Strategy, Risk and Privacy Services here at CISA. He brings over 15 years of experience in building resilience, compliance, and privacy frameworks for organizations of all sizes. He's also certified across multiple domains and has helped countless enterprises strengthen their risk management and privacy posture. With that, Neetin, over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Aparna. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Over last few years, we have witnessed how the capital market ecosystem has become one of the most digitally connected and data-driven segment for our financial system. With that, cyber risk has evolved from being an IT-centric to becoming a systematic business risk. Now, with that recognition, SEBI has introduced a cyber security and cyber resiliency framework, CSCRF, to ensure every market participant from, I would say, stockbrokers to mutual funds, depositories, AMCs, to operate with a strong and resilient cybersecurity foundation. Now, today's session is designed to help you translate this regulation into actionable steps. We will unfold the framework, explore compliance overlap with RBI and CERT-In. Here, my goal for the next 45 minutes is very simple: to make SEBI's CSCRF framework clear. It will be actionable for you regardless where your organization stands today. So to start this journey, there are key 6 pointers that we are going to touch base. And to start that, the first one is the foundation. As we know, SEBI has issued multiple circulars, multiple rules, okay, starting from 2015, then 2017, and then it comes 2019. Each covered a specific area from the cybersecurity, likes of cyber hygiene, then incident reporting, VAPT, and some of the critical controls. By these, organizations were confused and they were unable to correlate each and every circulars in pragmatic manner. That's what exactly the case over here, as a fragmented, information that has come across. To overcome this, SEBI has come up in the August 2023 with the new comprehensive framework, and that is what is all about: cyber security and cyber resilience framework. In single word, it's a single mandatory framework that constitute earlier circulars as well. So it is replaced earlier circular and it is a comprehensive circular to follow. This is the big shift. Why? Because this time SEBI has asked, can you prove that your controls are effective? And can your business continue even during the cyber crisis? In earlier circulars, it is quite straightforward. Do you have firewall? Do you have antivirus? Basically speaking, in the auditing language, earlier it was more design focused. Now the controls are move one step ahead and they are more into operational effectiveness standpoint. So in single way, we can conclude that it's a move from checklist based compliance to resilience based governance. You can think about earlier you do have a car. Now SEBI is asking, show me the seat belt within that car and prove that seat belt is effective and it can work in the real accident. At the same time, you can reach to your destination. So that is what is the SEBI's thought process right now. With this framework, certainly it is applicable to all capital market ecosystem. But when we look into that, there are 19 types of regulated entities starting with our stock exchanges, then clearing corporations house, then depositories are there, mutual fund houses, AMCs, and even investment advisor and the research analyst are a part of this framework. Now, to ensure the rules are proportionately uh, applicable to each and every regulated entity along with the risk and their market size, SEBI has smartly grouped them into 5 varieties or categories. At the top, it is Market Infrastructure Institute, MIIs. These are the most critical, likes of our exchange, NSE, BSE, and depositories, NSDL, and etc. Next is Qualified RE, the large entity with high trading volume or asset under management organizations. Then it comes mid-size and small-size RE. Basically, those are dependent on client base, financial threshold, etc. And finally, it's a self-certified RE. I would say it's the smallest participants, but they are not just going to be a lighter side of this framework. Now, with this tiering, approach, we are going to actually ensure the cybersecurity requirements are practical. They are risk-oriented and scalable across the entire spectrum, this market, capital market. When I look after from the impact lenses standpoint, okay, first and foremost, I can call it out, there is an absolute need for the accountability from the board as well as the senior management standpoint. Equally, failure to meet this compliance will witness heavy fines and sometimes our business will be restricted. All these are tangible, obviously, but losing a market trust, okay, is having a major impact that is going to be towards the intangible impact. Along with this, it's a clear message from the SEBI that it's a new era in the regulated expectation. So it is not just a start, but it will be in continuation to meet the compliances and the guidelines year after. Next slide. As we understood the basic foundation, the question comes why it matters to me. Okay, the first and foremost, it matters today because it protects investor. Okay, it strengthens market infrastructure. It drives consistency across all intermediaries. At the last but not the least, it ensures India's capital market remains secure, resilient, and globally competitive in a digital era. Now, to continue this, let's think about, as we do have a risk approach to the entire, ecosystem of the business operation, one part of our system may reflect into the other side. Okay, one IT system might collaborate to other, and if they failed or if they do have any impact, it will cascading. So that is what is a systemic risk approach. With that foundation, if you think about if there is a breach in any regulated entity, okay, let's say mid-sized broker or depository participants or AMCs, can impact investor trust. Okay, we do have some challenges about the trading continuity. Then maybe financial stability can be, impacted. So that's where we look after cyber risk as a business risk in a holistic approach. As we move along, SEBI is not focusing on checklist compliance, to be honest. Okay, SEBI expect ongoing resilience to be real-time threat detection per se, incident response, absolute governance. So all these things are SEBI is looking into. Equally, SEBI's framework, okay, CSCRF framework, I see it is quite aligned with the global, regulations as well. If you look at US, Securities and Exchange Commission, they provided a cybersecurity disclosure rule. On the other hand, our European Union's, okay, DORA, Digital Operations Resiliency Act, they talked about, the resiliency in the financial sector. All those can, club together. So when I see SEBI's future step, certainly they are going to integrate with these kind of global practices as well. With that, I can foresee a regulatory shift from compliance to resilience is something that is coming up. Additionally, India's security market is among the largest and the fastest growing globally. We witnessed our GDP growing, okay, since last 10 years. Now, with that fact, okay, the robust cybersecurity practices, okay, not only build the ecosystem, but they build the investor trust, not only from domestic, but from the foreign investor also, and position India as a secure investment destination. That's where the investor confidence and the market integrity is going to play the role over here. Finally, as we all know, it's a AI era. Everyone is talking about that artificial intelligence. We being a cybersecurity professional, we are quite acquainted with that. Equally, the bad actors, okay, hackers, they also know. So they are also looking into the AI-driven attacks. Equally, supply chain vulnerabilities, ransomware. We already witnessed this, and they are emerging day by day. So SEBI is actually pushing our regulated entities to invest now in the cybersecurity maturity rather than reacting after crisis. So that's it into the future readiness per se I can foresee. Next slide. Now, as we come along, one may have a thought, okay, what are the key things over in this framework? So first and foremost, I can call it out loud and clear. It's a governance and accountability. One of the core pillar of this framework is governance and accountability. When we talked about governance, basically we are looking into who is responsible and how they make sure cyber security is managed properly. Basically, when you are going to implement this or when you are going to witness this framework, okay, SEBI is absolutely looking at who owns cyber security decision, okay, who monitors it, who takes the action when something goes wrong. To give you some example, they are targeting board needs to approve cybersecurity policies. Board must have a periodic review and approval on the risk management portfolios. Equally, they are targeting, they meaning framework is targeting to have a CISO to be appointed as appropriate to their classification. And the CISO is responsible for designing and implementing the cyber controls. That is where the governance and accountability is standing. When we come to the next, I see robust security measures. Okay, when I look into this piece, certainly a generic or standard thought process or access management control, network monitoring control, equally, data encryption, vulnerability assessment, and for the larger player likes of MIIs and you know others, there is a security operations center audit as well as a red teaming exercise along with the third party and the vendor risk assessment needs to be part of this entire execution, and that needs to be continuously assessed. Now, including this, there will be addition of incident reporting. So they are targeting heavily on the incident management plan, how effective it is, and how we are well trained to look into that kind of incident reporting. Equally, it's all about data, whether it is a financial transaction or financial execution of processes. Data is at an ecosystem of this entire execution. So, what are the mechanism for the data protection? How we are actually going to bring the privacy thought process in this? This is also one of the key thing. articulated well in this framework. Along with this, our DPDP Act, certainly some privacy specific rules, okay, when they are going to be fully established, will have some major requirement from this framework as well. Finally, the framework emphasis on continuous improvement awareness program. Now, they are really targeting to have a proactive monitoring, reinforcing some of the critical component of this framework, okay, likes of 24/7 monitoring of our security operations center, then network resiliency, all those parameters they are actually looking into the continuous compliances standpoint. So at the end, CSCRF is not just about the compliance, but about building the resilient, secure that will bring the trust in our capital market. That is what is the core thing that I can look into. Finally, I see this SEBI's CRF framework is well, I would say, adjusted with our NIST because all they are talking on the same language in terms of the NIST and the SEBI. There is a govern, then identify, protect, detect, recover. All those core functionalities are there. So it is well getting connected in NIST as well as our framework. As we move along, I would say some of the business and operational impact. So when we look into this framework, it's not just for control or it's not just for the execution, but it is a strategic framework, okay, that directly influence our financial stability, operational practices, and organizational creditability. When we look into from the operation standpoint, it's drive the standard process across our incident management, VA, PT, then third party, oversight that ensures cybersecurity become an integral part of a daily operations rather than it's an isolated IT function. Now, with that lenses, SEBI is not targeting the cybersecurity needs to be only IT centric. That is where that accountability and the govern, requirement has play a major role. Organization must also maintain a proper documentation. Okay, they should conduct a periodic audit as applicable. Then they should have continuously monitor their compliances, which foster the culture of proactive risk management. So at the end, this is a risk-driven framework. Now, coming back to the creditability standpoint, demonstrating the adherence to this framework, okay, enhance the trust from the investor, from the partner, from the regulator, as well as bringing up that reliable, secure, and future-ready concept for that RE. Now, in essence, this framework transforms cybersecurity from technical compliance exercise. So far, we always look into any framework from the technology aspect. Okay, control needs to be, I would say, validated, report needs to be furnished. But this framework is quite different in terms of the execution, in terms of the accountability, and in terms of the continual improvement. So when I look into this framework, it's a business critical capability per se, which safeguard the financial integrity as well as strengthen the operational resilience and elevate the operational organizational reputation. Okay, and that is what is clearly look into the trust parameter from this framework. Now, as we started implementing, looking into frame, we come to the conclusion, okay, we are ready to implement because it's a mandate. But when we look into this, there is a compliance specific challenges. Now we will have some input about that piece on the compliance challenges. Let me to be very honest, okay? Compliance under the SEBI's framework is not just going to be a walk in a park, honestly speaking. Organizations are facing several big challenges. First, I can call it out as a multiple regulator, okay? SEBI sets this CSCRF rule, but many regulated entity also answer RBI for their banking operations, uh, as well as CERT-In for their incident reporting, as well as the log management. The tricky part is the rule overlaps, okay, but they are not exactly same. So it often feels like juggling a different set of instructions at the same time. Okay, we will have more insight about this in the upcoming slide. but I'm just opening the ground for this point right now here. Second piece, cyber skill shortage. I'm pretty sure this is not new for each one of us. Even NASCOM has estimated that India will need over 4 million cybersecurity professionals by this 2025 end. And in my experience, okay, when we have spoken to multiple, self certified REs, we realize that, cyber security expertise is in-house per se, it is limited. So the cyber security shortage skill is something that is again going to be a challenge. Now, when we move along, coming back to the technology, which is quite close to our heart, okay, legacy system. We know most of the trading platform are quite old, okay, because they have built with that ecosystem maybe a decade ago. Now, older trading platform or settlement platform that are not built to meet a modern security standard, okay. Now, upgrading them is not just the technical challenge to be straight, but it's a significant operational and the cost issues as well. Now, as we have spoken about a cost, implementing all these controls, okay, conducting audit, maintaining continuous compliance is quite expensive. And to be honest, SEBI does not provide any exemptions. And so the entity need to bear this cost within their own budget. So it is a cost specific per se, I would say another challenge. Finally, when we look into this regulatory, as we just spoke, okay, there is a SEBI, there is a RBI, CERT-In, and you may have other compliance requirement likes of ISO, SOC attestation for that matter. When we look into this entire gambit of the regulatory and the standard audit to continue, you will have audit fatigue. Now, when I said audit fatigue, you can imagine in an organization we are conducting 3 to 4 audit with more or less same set of control to be evaluated over a period of time. That brings multiple teams to undergo audit more frequently, and that is where the audit fatigue comes in. So audit fatigue is something that is going to be another compliance challenge that we foresee. Now, with this, while these challenges are real, the good news is that if we look into these challenges with the structured and strategic approach, okay, we can certainly look into the execution in a better way. And that is where we are going ahead with the next action discussion. Over to Maruti. Can you just change the slide, please? Okay, great. Now, when we look into these compliance challenges, there are ways, okay, the practical ways how we are going to overcome. All these are our learnings, okay, basis on the expertise and execution that we have done. We just get into this kind of, the challenges overcome mechanism. So the first challenge that we have witnessed is, how we are going to move away from multiple compliances requirement. So where we are actually going to come up with a unified compliance program. Now, when I say the unified audit or compliance program, just think about you are undergoing an audit, okay, 4 or 5 times per year with the same or more or less kind of controls to be evaluated each and every time. Now, against this, if you are having one platform or one approach where you will harmonize the control across SEBI, RBI, CERT-In as a regulator, and on other hand as a standard parameter likes of ISO, SOC 2, and you started validating those controls evidences only once and going to report many, certainly your audit fatigue will be reduced. So for this kind of execution, we are strongly recommending unified compliance, the auditing platform, or you may have the execution with the help of tools and the technology. Just to give one example to give you more clarity about this compliance platform per se, you can imagine for the access control policy, everyone, okay, including SEBI, RBI, ISO, SOC 2, any kind of audit that you go, mainly this access control policy is something that they always ask, okay, if you have drafted this access control policy to fulfill entire gambit of regulatory as well as standard audit compliance, and you can keep it and maintain over a period of time, you can fulfill the requirement of entire audit parameters and you can comply with SEBI, RBI, ISO, SOC 2, etc. So that's what the power of this unified compliance program. Next is we have spoken about, skills gap because of the unavailability of the workforce. To overcome this, think you are having some specialized task, okay, and that specialized task has been outsourced to the pre-identified or secured vendor, okay, with the proper vendor onboarding process and the mechanism, and finally having that vendor also to be in the gambit of, this framework compliances. When we look into the specialized task, I can call it out task like of 24/7 security operations monitoring, or I would say threat advisory for that matter, or vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, red teaming, all those activities that you can certainly outsource to the specialized service provider. When we do so, you will have the existing team, maybe at whatever size, okay, they can actively focus on a different vertical. And that way you can bring the better cybersecurity preparedness as well as the posture management for your organization. On other hand, we have just spoken about legacy system. In my opinion, to overcome these legacy system challenges, a phased modernization approach is really essential. Now, let's take an example. You are having a trading platform, okay, maybe quite old, built, I would say 10 years ago. Now, perform vulnerability assessment on that, penetration testing, okay, add additional layer of security like of multi-factor authentication, have some encryption mechanism for their databases. Now, with this approach, you will certainly elevate your security posture and without fully replacing that system immediately. Immediately is a keyword. Certainly, modern system will need a better protection mechanism, but over a period of time you can achieve. But right now, to take a baby step, this is something that is, good to start with. Similarly, analyze your supply chain component. Okay, getting into that supply chain risk management thought process, you can really look into the third party risk, okay, or any open source that you are using. In this way, whatever legacy system, whatever systems which are there in your ecosystem, you can have that phased wide approach to move towards the desired level of security posture. Finally, organization should elevate compliance from purely IT responsibility to enterprise-wide mandate. I would strongly focus on that rather than cybersecurity limited to only IT responsibility. It should go at an enterprise-wide mandate. Finally, it will make cybersecurity and the regulatory adherence a core business priority rather than only again and again for IT priority. By taking this into a structured or proactive and the pragmatic way, combining monitoring, then security testing, assessment, equally data protection, and coupled with your, staff awareness, organization not only comply with this regulation, but is strengthen your professional, operational, as well as resilience, you know, parameter. And certainly it protects your investor trust and enhance the organizational credibility. Now, with this, I foresee this transformation, compliance from the reactive task into strategic capability. What does that mean? It will certainly enable you to stay secure, resilient, and future ready in this digital market landscape. That is what is the strategic capability I was referring to. Next slide. All right. Now we do understand basis of fundamentals. Now we talked about, some of the key parameters. Now, what are the best practices to implement? Let's talk about the best practices that we adopted, in past couple of, I would say, months of our delivery. The first and foremost thing that I can call it out is a risk-based approach. Now, when we look into any organization, not all system carry same risk. I hope you agree with me. Now, first, look at the high impact system, and basis on that, you can bring the security mechanism. Okay. Example could be trading platform or KYC portals. Okay. Those platform we need to look into at a first level because they are having at a high risk zone. Okay. So that way we can look into adopt a security based approach. Second is build unified. compliance program we have just talked about. So it is strongly recommend you should have, unified compliance uh, management where you can have multiple regulations, standard audit to club together and can have, the one way to get the audit concept with test once, report many. Third thing is elevate compliance from your IT to enterprise-wide responsibility, accountability and the governance we have talked about. So senior management, including the business owner, okay, must involve for the security decision making. They should be your part of, the leadership acceptance at a strategic level discussion, at a board level discussion, as well as the ground level execution, because that is where the culture comes in. Fourth is leverage the specialized expertise. I just brief you about, some of the services likes of, 24 bar 7 security monitoring, then VAPT, source code review. You can leverage that to a specialized vendor. Certainly, vendor specific onboarding, their SLS contract needs to be in place, and that vendor also needs to follow a SEBI's guidelines. Then fifth is maintain a continuous monitoring and testing. It is highly important because we are evolving. Okay, the threat landscape is evolving every day. So as regulatory landscape is also evolving. So regular vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, red teaming, phishing simulation attacks, equally, awareness with regards to the cyber crisis management needs to be executed on periodic basis. Sixth, strengthen third party and supply chain management, as this entire ecosystem is not one enterprise driven. It is totally dependent on our partners or vendor, right? So that needs to be taken care of when we are actually providing the holistic services to the community. Now, vendor, cloud service provider, your service partner should comply with this security requirement, okay? That you can happy to call it out in a contract, okay? Master service agreement with the proper, ASLs and etc. You can just think about, a single breach at KYC registration agency, okay, might compromise multiple clients. May not be possible only with only one client, but multiple, whichever that KYC registration is get integrated. So this third party and supply chain is really required in this ecosystem, because we are not only one enterprise driven organization, but it is quite coupled with the entire suite of industry that we are going to deliver that product or services. Seventh is focus on the data protection. At the end, everything revolves around data. So sensitive investor information, okay, likes of PAN card, I may have my PII data, okay, my Aadhaar data, everything will be collected when we are actually going to operate in this capital market. So data needs to be protected. Okay, some of the protection mechanism likes of encryption, data at rest, okay, some limited access control, securely managed vault where you are having the data and the keys. All those things really needs to be implemented and taken care of when we are going to be part of this journey. Finally, it's not only regulatory requirement I can foresee, but it maintains the customer trust also. You can imagine you and me being a small portion investor. I do have my personal information to any regulated entity, and there is a data breach. Okay, we will lose the trust on that particular regulated entity. So this data is really going to be a sensitive parameter to look into in this entire framework. Finally, standardized documentation and reporting is really important. Reason being, without having a proper documentation, we will not be in position to fulfill the compliance requirement. So clear records of our policies, incident, audit reports, and compliance activity likes of VAPT, source code review, that needs to be well documented and maintained over a period of time with the proper version control, with the person who is authorized to approve those. So that is really mandate to complete this compliance journey. By following these practices, organization can uh, turn this compliance into strategic capability, as we just concluded. Next slide, Maruti. Okay, now I'm pretty sure you may have a question, Nitin. I do have this framework in place. I have implemented in my, regulated entity organization. How should I enhance this? So first and foremost, it's journey that we are going to continue. Okay, it's not just a one-time episode, to be honest. So implementing this framework is just the first step. Okay, true value will come from enhancing this measure over a period of time to build that resilient as well as continuous compliance organization. So my strong recommendation is first and foremost embed cybersecurity into daily operations. Now, what does that mean? Compliance should not be considered as a one-time activity. I will do it just before the audit. Okay, that mindset is not going to work over here at all. Second mindset, okay, this is something goes to only IT responsibility, that is also not going to take it forward. So what does that means? Embed means it should have a management commitment. Now management commitment means your board, your senior executive or C-level executive, your business owner should actively participate in the governance, actively looking into the monitoring, exercising, how the culture is evolved over a period of time. Then only that management commitment will be witnessed and cyber security will be embedded into your daily operations. Second, continuous monitoring and testing. When we look into the continuous monitoring, you can think about you are having, a specific requirement to monitor 24 bar 7 SOC. Okay, then you are required to have quarterly VA and PT. You must have your management to undergo one round of, cyber security awareness training per year. It's also required over here. So that is what we are talking about, okay, in terms of the testing, in terms of the continuous monitoring. Certainly, this helps to detect and remediate emerging threats proactively, and that is what the exact concept of the proactive measures for the cyber security. Third piece, review and update the policy and control periodically. As we all witness, okay, our technology, our threat landscape, our regulatory landscape is evolving day by day. Every now and then we are witnessing new kind of threat vectors in our entire cybersecurity ecosystem. Now, with this evolving piece, regular revisiting our security frameworks, okay, visiting our policies, visiting our tools and technology, control implementation mechanism, okay, are really going to help us for that proactive mechanism. Okay, so to be effective, to be aligned with both the side, business side as well as the regulatory side, we strongly look into the policy and the procedure as well as the controls needs to be reviewed periodically. Fourth one is third party and the supply chain specific, thought process. As we just talked about, it's an ecosystem, right? So we need the third party as well as our supply chain to be resilient. Now, when we get into this, our third party service provider first and foremost needs to be in compliant with our security requirement, regulatory entity security requirement. So there should be a straightforward compliance driven SLAs. Second, there should needs to be the agreement, master service agreement needs to be in place. Those needs to be time to time validated. Okay, you must have a mechanism to validate your third party onboarding as well as a due diligence before you get into the business. So all those pieces are really matters when we look into the implemented system to be maintained over a period of time. And finally, training and awareness. I would strongly agree that without having a proper understanding of the subject as well as awareness about that subject, okay, we will not be in position to take a required action. And there, that is where we call it out, people is the weakest link in the cyber security. So training and awareness needs to be in place. But when we talked about training and awareness, first and foremost, it's not just uniform training for entire organization. So we need to have a training at a particular stakeholder per se. So we need to have a training at a level where we are actually going to take a decision making. So it will go to the mid-size management. If it is at a governance level, it will go to our C-level executive. If it is at a operational level, then it will go to our L1 specific, service support staff. So that way we need to look into the training and the awareness. By following these practices, organization can transform this compliance into proactive and enterprise-wise capability. Yeah, thank you, Maruti. Next slide. Uh, as we now look into the framework, okay, everyone is under mindset, how I'm going to comply. We talked about that. Okay, what are the controls are there is something that everyone is, looking into. So first and foremost, before we are getting into this slide, these are just handful of controls which are quite mandatory across multiple types of regulated entity. This is not a comprehensive list of control. Comprehensive list of control is readily available in the framework Annexure B. Framework document is quite lengthy, okay, 200 odd pages, but it is well articulated. Those who are keen to understand this control, I would urge please refer Annexure B or Annexure 2 and get yourself more comfortable with the control. These controls highlighted in your screen only limited for basic requirement or understanding purpose. First control, certainly governance. We have already talked about, but here is specific requirement in terms of the governance and the management. We are targeting CISO to report to MD, Managing Director or Chief Executive Officer. Okay, this is a mandate over here, which is quite unique. We have not witnessed, okay, so far. Now, why this is comes into the play? Because this ensures that the cyber security receives the necessary attention from the highest level of management in that organization. Second is asset inventory and classification. RE must maintain the comprehensive inventory of their asset, and that needs to be classified as a critical and the sensitive. Then third comes in the VAPT. We have talked again, it needs to be conducted periodically. Patch management, we must have patch management process, I would say robust process to be in place. So this is going to minimize the risk of exploitation due to known vulnerabilities. So that patch management is really matters. We need to have a special focus on this. Cyber audit. Okay, cyber audit is a terminology in this framework, and it comes with the timeline. Ideally speaking, cyber audit is going to conduct over 12 months in the past year. So the first audit going to start from the April months onward for the previous financial year. So that's what the cyber audit is. Cyber capability matrix, it's an interesting piece out here in this framework that gives the capability index for your organization. There is a proper mechanism how to do what to do. I would urge please go and look into this piece. Software bill of material, fantastic input out here. Okay, this is something new that has come in. You can think your software is made up of multiple small portion or functionalities, and you own them or you borrowed them from the multiple organization. Some of them are open source. They brings the vulnerability in your master software. So how you are going to overcome that? Where that concept of software bill of materials comes, and VA needs to be completed to meet the security posture for this. Then comes to the outsourcing guideline, as we already talked about, vendors and the third party. So these outsourcing guidelines from the SEBI needs to be, comply with. Equally, cloud service provider or hosted organization, they also need to follow this guideline to be in sync with a SEBI specific, the requirement. Finally, off the shelf products, I'm pretty sure most of the organizations using this. So this needs to be, you know, security tested prior we deploy in your production environment. So that is what is the court's requirement is. Log management and the data security, certainly. Log, it's a variety of log nowadays. Okay, it is not just a log of the system, but information, then communication and technology. All those logs, databases log, all those logs needs to be securely look into. ISO 27001 certification, this is also quite new. RBI and etc. never asked about this, but SEBI recommended that one should look into the ISO 27001 specific certification to give the commitment toward the information security management and the continual improvement. Equally, there is a concept of market SOC as well as security operations center to monitor your security parameters, look into the threats and so on and so forth. So that is also getting validated over here. Threat intelligence, SEBI recommended that regulated entities should go and sign up with threat intelligence service provider to get threat intelligence information about the new cyber security threats or how they are actually evolving. So that kind of clarification should get from that specialized service provider. disaster recovery and business continuity. Certainly, they are expecting us to conduct a periodic DR drills, business continuity exercise, and report needs to be furnished to SEBI. Equally, incident response as well as incident classification, they do have the special interest in this. They are targeting certain specific guidelines to be followed for incident response, classification of incident, and timely reporting is really matters out here. uh, Next slide, Maruti. Okay. Now, when we look into this entire ecosystem, we are having multiple regulators. To be very honest, okay, if you are a SEBI empaneled regulated entities, you will have RBI specific cybersecurity framework as well as certain specific incident reporting guidelines to follow through. Now, to give you some exciting understanding about this piece, okay, let's say you are under SEBI as well as you are having some banking and NBFC specific execution. So you will be under the gambit of RBI as well. So RBI said incident reporting requirement, VAPT reporting requirement, even RBI mandate board approved cybersecurity policy under that governance zone. So SEBI requested, to have CEO or MD specific reporting. All those things are, required. That's bring the complexity of the execution of this regulation per se. Now, when we go back to CERT-In look into the incident reporting timeline. Okay, 6 hours, that is what is there. SEBI also follows the same thing, but they ask you classify this incident and then you submit the report, including keeping your CEO and CXO in loop. Log retention per se, when we look into certain guidelines, they mentioned ICT, information communication and technology specific log needs to be retained securely for 180 days. Whereas SEBI follow the same, but they made it in this way that 6 months you need to have active, okay, and remaining 18 months you can put it into the archival mode, limited to only logs which are classified. So that way there are some rules and regulation that has been forced. Equally, some forensic audit, okay, that needs to be conducted. So as per certain, we need to have incident investigation protocol or support in place where that forensic audit is going to play the role. SEBI also requested the same thing. SEBI mandate that forensic audit needs to be carried out where the major breaches are witnessed. So that's where the multi regulator mandates playing a critical role is entire, the framework per se. Next slide. Finally, operationalizing this compliance, once we come across so long, how we are actually going to bring this into the, day in, day out kind of execution. So first and foremost, this is purely moving away from checklist to the compliance as a culture, focused framework. So in our experience, the first thing we should look into the three lines of defense. Everyone is aware about that fact. Okay, the first line goes to, the business and the IT team. The second line goes to risk and compliance team, and third line is internal audit with the external audit as well as assurance practice to get into. So that kind of mechanism to put in place to look at the operationalizing compliances. Second piece is integrating cybersecurity into the key operations area, likes of change management, likes of vendor onboarding, vendor due diligence, then project life cycle. All those things needs to be, considered as an operational area, and this needs to be integrated with the framework. Security resiliency testing. Okay, we talked about that piece, VAPT. Including that, there should be timely tabletop exercise, disaster recovery drills, incident simulation, per se, equally phishing simulations. All those exercises are needs to be conducted on periodic basis. Then automation and metrics, this is something I would urge each one of you to look at. Reason being, automation will enable you to have efficiency and human error free outcome. So when in terms of the automation, SIEM tool, okay, likes of your SIEM plus SOAR capability, GRC platform needs to be in your ecosystem. Equally, we need to have some meaningful metrics likes of mean time to respond. Okay, maybe percentage of high risk vulnerabilities, SLA patch management. Then how efficiently you conducted the phishing test. So that success rate needs to be called out. So that kind of metrics one organization should can continue. Finally, the continuous risk management and the importance. Uh, we must encourage. to look into the continuous, risk assessment to look at your ecosystem, and that will enable the posture of your security at a significant level. Finally, role-based training, we just talked about, okay, training caters to particular segment, governance, then mid-size management and operational. So that needs to be there. A classic example could be developers should train on the secure code training. Okay, maybe in your ecosystem may have the relationship manager, so they need to train on a phishing awareness per se. Leadership must train on cyber governance, cyber security, cyber resiliency per se. Now by following these practices, organization can turn this compliance into culture, and that is what we are referring. uh, it's not a burden, but it's something that you should embed into the culture. Next slide, Maruti. Final, we will come across how we are actually going to sustain this entire framework when we have started achieving the goal step by step. So this is purely CISA's thought process with regards to our experience, okay, providing the services to regulated entities across variety. First and foremost, I can look into this as a most differentiator in the implementation per se. First is treat compliance as a continuous journey. Compliance is not one-time project. It's a living, it's evolving process, and SEBI's framework is certainly looking into this piece because controls are dynamic. Okay, and we know this entire threat landscape is evolving. So our recommendation: embed a periodic review, automated monitoring, and recurring audits into your ecosystem. A classic example: recently we had one. RE, for which we have conducted a quarterly VAPT automation, where we created, a quarterly scan time, and then basis on the scan outcome we started giving them a heads up. This is what is the due date for the remediation. This is where you are going to stand for the next quarter, and this enable them to meet the compliance journey in a continuous way. Second is integrate cybersecurity into the business processes. Now, when we look into the business process, you can think about you are coming up with something new in addition to your existing, likes of any product launch, any vendor that is going to be on board, or you are actually going to up or enhance your, some of the management practices, change management, incident management. You should integrate cyber security into that. That is what I meant. Classic example, you are coming up with, let's say, trading application. So we fully do the cyber risk assessment prior that application goes out. We look into a vendor, okay, who has developed that. What are the software component that has come into this via ace bomb? So that is what the I would say the recommendation from our side. Third, build risk aware culture. Now, building a culture certainly requires management commitment, governance, and that ecosystem. But more, it is required that every employee should own the cyber security. Then only this entire risk aware culture is going to upheld. The classic example could be just have some phishing campaign in your organization. Train your relationship manager with that phishing campaign. Train your IT staff with how to do the patching, okay, in a periodic way, in a systematic way. So that way we can have the risk aware culture to be built in an organization. Finally, two more things: leverage the technology and the automation. Certainly a combination of technology tool, okay, SIEM, then SOAR, GRC platform will bring the excellent efficiency, and it will elevate your security posture significantly. Finally, measure and improve your key matrices like of mean time to report, MTTR, then your patch management cycle, okay, or SLA, then audit closure rates, and the phishing test outcomes, so and so forth. That way you are not just going to bring the compliance in house, but you will have culture to follow. Now finally, one thing is clear: SEBI's cyber security and cyber resiliency framework is not just the compliance mandate. I see it's a catalyst for stronger governance, operational maturity, and investor confidence, to be honest. And the key is to start early. Assess your current posture, define clear roadmap, and embed cybersecurity resiliency into your operational day in, day out activity. I would say you should infuse this into your DNA of your organization, whether it is aligning with certain or RBI mandates, okay, operationalizing this incident response, building SOC readiness, conducting VAPT, etc. Every step is going to take towards your risk posture, and certainly it will elevate your, tomorrow's risk parameter. Now, at CISA, we firmly believe that regulatory compliance should not be seen as a burden, but as a business advantage. And it's a way to build the trust and resilience in a rapidly growing capital market here in India. Yeah, back to you, Aparna.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you for those detailed insights. We have received a couple of questions if I go to open for
Please,
Q&A, but I think we just have a few more minutes before we hit the hour, so we may not be able to pick up all the questions. So, but at least we can do one or two, right?
please,
And
yes.
in the meantime, a request to the audience, the poll is live now. So request all of you to please share your feedback. And that will be very helpful for us as we go ahead and organize more of these knowledge sharing sessions. All right. So, Nitin, the first question that has come in is how can smaller SEBI regulated entities practically meet the CSCRF requirements without overburdening their IT or their compliance budgets?
Great. I see this is a practical one. So first and foremost, SEBI's framework is categorized basis on your classification, okay, mid-size, then self-regulated, so and so forth. So first and foremost, check it out how you have been into this categorization. Then basis on that, controls are applicable to you. That is what is this framework is all about. Example, market shock. Okay, there is a new concept that has been come across. So market shock, you can avail the service, okay, rather than building your own SOC in your organization. Next could be you are quite into the cloud, hosted organization per se. So try to use, cloud-centric incident management, detection, log management, all those, tools and technology from the cloud only. Uh, Definitely, when you are going to do this, you need to keep in mind that cloud service provider also in compliant with the SEBI. Uh, Finally, I would look into from that, audit fatigue standpoint, have a vendor who are providing unified, compliance program or unified audit where multiple regulatory frameworks can come together and they can have only one way to test and report many. That concept that will actually allow you to, you know, cut down on your cost as well as your time. Aparna.
Yes, thanks, Nitin. So one question that we have received is another question. Can you tell the LOD once again? LOD 3, 2, 1.
LOD meaning? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Uh, Sudeep Roy, I think you have a question. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit and type it out for us, I think that'll help. Not sure if we,
Three lines of defense you are referring, if I'm
yeah,
not wrong.
probably. I mean, the question says, can you tell the LOD once again? Audit team, risk and compliance team, front end user.
Yeah, so three lines of defense is not a new model, to be very honest. This is quite well established when we look into the three lines of defense. Uh, First line is called as a business or IT team who actually sets day in, day out processes. So that needs to be checked. Okay, so it's a first check when we get into any control or control effectiveness standpoint. Okay, so first line needs to business and IT team to go and check day in, day out process. Second line is the risk team who is actually going to come and witness, see whether they are really monitoring, providing that kind of defined outcome or not, whether they are in line with the compliances or not. So basically, risk team is going to look into the risk associated to that and fulfilling the compliance requirement, fulfilling the required control effectiveness standpoint. And the third team is where, which is a separate team, okay, which comes and conduct the audit in an organization. They provide a material weakness or what needs to be improved. Equally, organization will call it out external, I would say, auditor. Okay, for this framework per se, we need your certain empaneled organization to come on board and do the external audit. Now, external audit will come, they will audit and they will identify what is there in this entire framework maturity standpoint and what needs to be elevated. So they will do the audit and they will give you the compliance report. If that is what is the LOD means, maybe.
Yeah, I hope we've answered the question.
Yeah.
If not, please do reach out to us and we'd be happy to take, respond to it with a little more clarity. We do have a few more questions, but I think we are over the hour now. So thank you everyone for joining, and we will respond to the questions in a follow-on mail. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.